Well, hello, everybody. This is Dr. Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean here at the Jindal School of Management, and we are delighted to have all of you attend our Gear Up for Spring 2023 registration. And when we talk about registration, we're talking about getting you enrolled in your classes for spring before you even get here. We want you to have to not worry about that as a detail that you have to do after you arrive. We want it all tucked in and taken care of. So I am delighted to have with me a colleague this morning, Corina Cantua. She is our director of our advising operation, and she is going to precisely walk you through how you can register for your spring 2023 classes. Now, just keep in mind, you can't do it quite yet. It's not quite time. The window is not quite open, but you will have all of the information. So when that window opens for you, that you'll be able to register. And Corina is going to talk about that. The other thing that I want to reassure you about in this webinar this morning is please listen to us. In terms of, don't worry about trying to write everything down that we say, or take a snippet of the screen, because we're going to send you a copy of this deck for you to use when you go through the registration process. And if you can hear it, you're going to retain it a lot better, because I am quite certain that our course enrollment registration process is very different from the institution that you went to as an undergraduate student. So without further ado, let me turn it over to my colleague, Corina Cantua. Corina, take it away, and let's get these students ready to register for classes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Powell. All right, so welcome everybody. So what I'm going to do, Norma, if you want to go ahead and just go to the next slide, I'm going to start right off with some important things that you need to consider, keep in mind, be familiar with as you start your registration practice. This process, everything that we're going to cover today, what's going to happen is once you learn it once for your first semester, it's going to be the same for your other semesters. So this is a good time to kind of explore, take a look at this information, be familiar with it, and then any registration after this is going to be very simple because you're going to be familiar with all of these items because you're taking care of them now. So before we jump into the registration how-to, I did want to mention the academic calendar. So every semester you're going to see an academic calendar, and it's going to look just like what's on the screen right now. It consists of 2 pages. Right now we're showing you just page 1, but on page 1 you're going to have a lot of the main important deadlines for each semester. So we highlighted some on there. The first day of classes, for example, is January 17th. The last day of regular registration is January 12th, so you do have a pretty good amount of time to register. Now, there's one date on there that we did not highlight that I do want to point out is within that web registration section that you see, there's a schedule planner available date, which is Monday, October 24th. So now that's next Monday. What that means is that's when the schedule is going to go live for this coming semester, for spring 2023. So as Dr. Powell said, we're not ready yet, but stuff is going to start happening where you can start preparing and looking at what classes you're going to start taking because the schedule is going to go live. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Schedule goes live. Now, page 2 of the academic calendar is actually going to have 2 payment deadlines. So you definitely want to make sure that you're aware of that. Sometimes page 1 is made available without page 2. So what you need to do is make sure you go back and check on page 2 because you do want to keep both pages, both deadlines on both pages in mind every semester. And of course, we have the link on the screen and we'll share it with you when we share these slides, or you can email us and we can show you where it is. But very important, be familiar with the deadlines on the academic calendar. All right, so let's go to the next slide. The other thing I wanted to touch on is, so when you're talking about registration, the first thing you're going to ask is, well, what do I register in, right? What classes am I going to choose to be able to fill my first semester? So one of the main things that you need to be familiar with is the catalog. The catalog is going to spell out all the degree requirements for your program. So it doesn't matter which one, we have it in the catalog. So the second step, so you looked at the academic calendar, is the second step from my recommendation is for you to go into the catalog and take a look at those requirements. You'll see your core requirements, your electives, it'll spell it out for you. And within that, you're going to start getting an idea of what classes you need to be looking into to register. Now, we mentioned one particular one on this slide, which is MAS 6102, which is a program prerequisite that is required for you to enroll in your first semester. So you're going to choose your courses, but you must also have that MAS 6102 in your first semester. So that's a done deal. Put that on your list as one of the classes that you're going to have in your first semester. Now, the other thing to kind of start learning, once you look in the catalog, you'll see that there's a required GPA. So as you start building your schedule, putting your classes together, you also have to keep in mind that you have to do well, right, in those classes, because you do have to maintain that 3.0 GPA for your core classes, anything that's labeled core in your degree requirements in the catalog, and also overall. So all the classes that you take at UTD also have to average out to a 3.0. Now, that does not mean that you have to have grades of B or better in every single class, but it does mean that if, let's say you get a grade of C in a class, you will make sure you have a grade of A somewhere else so that you can balance that out and give you that average of a 3.0. All right. Now, within your first semester, we're going to put something together that we call the degree plan. And that's the third item that's listed on here. Now, the degree plan is basically going to be the same courses that you see in the catalog. We just put them on a spreadsheet that's a little bit easy to read. And what that's for is just for you to be able to track what courses you're taking. So once you get a copy of the degree plan, you can see, okay, I'm taking these classes in the spring. These are the classes that are left. You can even write out the semesters if you want of when you intend to take the classes and just sort of keep track of what you're doing. And then on the degree plan also, we help you calculate the GPA. So it also helps you kind of keep an eye on that GPA for the courses that you're taking. So look forward to that once you start your first semester. Now, the last item on here is a reminder that you will hear from us a lot, which is make sure that you're paying attention to the emails that we're going to be sending out and the invitations that go out for any program information, any webinars that are coming up. And we do have information on that a little bit later today, because aside from the basics, aside from you looking in the catalog, seeing all the classes listed, there is going to be a lot more information provided by the programs through these webinars that are going to fill in the gaps. So when you look at the classes, you may have some questions. This is what those webinars are going to be about. They're going to answer those questions and they're going to kind of guide you a little bit better, give you a little bit more information on how you should plan your classes. So please make sure you're checking your email and watching out for those invitations. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to show you basically where the registration is going to happen. Now, this is Galaxy. You've probably already used this, been very familiar with it because it's the same place that you use to check your application information. The net ID and the password that you use to log in for the application is going to be the same net ID and password that you use to go into Galaxy. Just in case you haven't used it this way, if you forgot how to get to it, just go to the main utdallas.edu page, and then you'll see it under resources. Galaxy will be on there. Okay. Now, when you go in here, if you have any issues or your password is not working, there is a contact, the OIT help desk. They will be the ones to help you out, kind of troubleshoot any issues that you may be having as you log into Galaxy. All right. Okay, so let's quickly go to the next slide. So when you log into Galaxy, you're gonna land on a page that looks like this. It has tiles. This view should be pretty familiar for you because it should kind of be the same type of view that you had as an applicant. The difference is that the tiles are going to contain different type of information. So now that's what you would have to be more familiar with. When you land into Galaxy, you may have to change from your applicant center to the student center, because sometimes when you log in, it defaults to the view that you had as a student for an applicant. So make sure that when you log in that you do see UTD Student Center so that you can get these tiles, and these are the tiles that you will have as a current student, okay? So make sure that you have this information. Now there's a lot of tiles in here. I would recommend that you just click on them, just be familiar with the type of information that's under each of the tiles. We're not going to cover all the tiles. We're going to hit on the two more important ones that are particularly important for registration, but please start exploring, start clicking around, be familiar with the type of information that you find on these tiles. All right, so the first tile that we're going to cover is the tasks tile. So if we go to the next slide, that'll show you a little screenshot of what that looks like. So one of the important things about the tasks tile is that it keeps track of any item that you have to complete or any hold that you may have in your account that you have to do something for in order to clear it. For example, as you start your, as a student, once you become from an admit to an active student, so once you, we know that your intention is to come to UTD and you want to start registering in classes, one of the most popular holds you're going to see on your account is a new student hold that will say you must meet with your advisor. Now, one of the things that we're going to do as we head into your registration is we're going to go ahead and go into your account and release that hold for you. So that's a hold you may see right now, but it should be released soon. Now, there's maybe other holds on there. There may be a TB test hold that you may have on your account. All of that, we're going to go in there and try to push them back so that it opens up the time for you to be able to register. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not responsible for completing those tasks. We're just pushing them back so that it allows you time to register. Make sure that you go back and still, you need to make sure you take care of those items. One of the things that you may also see, because you were able to apply into UTD with unofficial documents, you may see a hold on your account for official documents. It may not come, it may not be posted right now. It's probably going to show up a little bit closer to the beginning of the semester because we do need to have official transcripts, official documents once you become a student at UTD. Now, even though the hold is not going to show up there, I would encourage you that if you have not sent in your official transcripts yet, to go ahead and start that. Make that part of your getting ready for a UTD task. Because once you send that, then that's something you can check off your list and you don't have to worry about doing it later. And it helps just taking care of it. Okay, so even though you may not show up as a task, please make sure to send us your official documents. All right, now it's going to be the same. So any semester that you prepare for registration, looking at this task tile to see if you have any holds is going to be important because this may be one of those things that holds you from registering. You may have all your classes ready to go, you're ready to register, and then you find out you have a hold. So make sure that, again, as you're planning every semester, you look at this to make sure there's nothing that's going to prevent you from enrolling. All right, so now let's look at the next slide, which is the next tile. This is where all the registration is going to happen. So you'll see a lot of the items that are available within this tile, including the schedule planner, the add, swap, drop classes, class search. So you'll see that it's very much for getting registered in courses. Now, there's a lot of steps that you are not familiar with, right? If you have not been at UTD, you're not familiar with exactly how this works. But don't worry, we're going to have a link a little bit, actually in the next slide, I think, that's going to give you a link to our advising website on the school management page that really walks you through each of these steps. We made a lot of different videos about all these different things that have to do with registration. So you just have to, click on it, watch it, and it will show you exactly what steps to follow. We have links to how-tos that you can follow as well. So it is not unusual that you don't know how to use the system because this is your first semester, but don't worry, there's a lot of information that's going to be available to you so that you know how to register and how to add classes for your semester. Again, what you learn now is going to be something that you repeat each semester. One of the things I do want to point out on this Manage My Classes tile is what's called the enrollment, or what's called View Enrollment Appointment. So you'll see that on that list. Now, even though it's labeled an appointment, it's really not an appointment. It really just outlines the enrollment day and time that you can actually start to register in classes. I don't believe that's available to you just yet, but just like the schedule will go live next week, your enrollment appointment is going to go live next week as well. And you'll be able to log in here, go to this tile, click on View Enrollment Appointment, and you're going to be able to see your assigned enrollment day and time. What that means is on that day and at that time is when you can actually enroll in classes for your first semester. Now, the fact that it's probably not going to be next week, it may be the week after that or in mid-November, probably because things are just now getting started. We're doing this webinar a little bit early, so to give you time to learn all these things. So we still have a little bit of time to get that. But once you see that date, it does not mean that you have to wait until that day to start planning your classes, okay? I would actually encourage you not to do that. I would encourage you that as soon as the schedule is out, start looking at all these items that I touched on, go to the registration page, start looking at all those videos, become familiar, attend the webinars that Dr. Powell is going to touch on, start planning your classes now. There is a way for you to put them in what's called your shopping cart, which is sort of like a holding place within your student account. And then once your enrollment day and time comes, then all you have to do is just finish enrolling, right? You don't start the planning, which can take a few days. You can start that early. And then you just, on your enrollment day and time, you can just finish enrolling. Now, the only additional suggestion I would make is, as you plan, make sure that you have a backup plan. Have more than one, because once you start registering, you may want to tweak things. You may not like a class that you originally intended to do. You may want to look at something else. So give yourself, 1, 2, or 3 options of the classes that you want to have. So again, when it comes to your enrollment day and time, you're not having to spend that extra time searching for things. You already have your plan, you're ready to go. You're just going to finish your registration, and it should be a pretty quick thing at that point because you've invested a lot of the planning ahead of time. All right. Okay. So with that, let's go to the next slide, which is just some final thoughts. We definitely want to make sure we have time for any questions that you may have for us. So here's some of my final thoughts in regards to registration. So now that you are a current UTD student, so you're starting in the spring semester, you need to make sure that you check your UTD email. Now, I mentioned before that it's very important. A lot of the communication that's going to come to you is going to come via email, invitations, highlights of what you should be doing, reminders. There's a lot of stuff that's going to come through UTD email, so you have to make sure that you are managing that. But you also have to remember that it's UTD email. And just like we're going to be sending information, or the university is going to be sending information via UTD email, you need to reply via UTD email as well. If you email us from your external email account, we are not able to reply or follow through with that. We really need you to email us through UTD email. So make that shift now. If you haven't already, some of you may already have, start using your UTD email, and that's how we're going to have a lot of our communication via that email. The second thing is, so you have 2 ID numbers. One is your UTD ID number, and that's the one that starts with that 20. Now that is an ID number that you should keep to yourself. Do not share it. So do not include that in an email that you send us. We do not need it to find you. If anything, we would recommend that you use your net ID instead. So the net ID is the other ID that you have as a UTD student. The net ID is what you use to log into pretty much your Galaxy, but then you're going to find out it's going to be the login you're going to use for many things. So once you're on campus, you go to a computer on campus, you're going to use your net ID and password. So your email, net ID and password. So if you have your net ID, if you want to identify yourself when you reach out to us, use your net ID instead. And that's the one that has the letters and then followed by the numbers. So please do not use the UTD ID, use your net ID. And then as I mentioned, so there's a lot of little steps that come when you want to register. You do not have, I did not provide them in this presentation, and you do not have to memorize them, although you will after you do the registration several times. But we do have videos. There's a link on this slide that shows you how to get to that page, but it's basically in the School of Management, Advising, Registration. Within that, we outline all the things, the academic calendar, the Galaxy login, the Manage My Classes tile, all of these things are on that page. And we include a description, a how-to for each of them, but we also created some videos that you can watch. We made them as short as we could so that you could just, kind of log in and look at some videos and be done really quickly and kind of learn the steps on how you're going to do the registration. So don't worry if you don't know how to do it, just start looking at all these things that I covered today, start getting comfortable with this information so that is preparation for your registration. And then another important thing is what Dr. Powell is going to talk about next. Dr. Powell?
Thank you so much, Corina. That was just such valuable and detailed information. And again, all of you are going to get a copy of this deck and be able to follow that. Corina mentioned something that I just want to reiterate before I discuss what's on this slide. reading information is absolutely the most important thing that you can do. One of the biggest, I think, mistakes that incoming students make is that they don't take time to read the information that they're provided, and then they email everybody because they're so anxious to get an answer to their question. So if you'll take the time to listen when we conduct webinars, whether it's this one or whether it's your program, it will save you a tremendous amount of anxiety, because all of the information you need is readily available to you, and it's readily available on our website. And sure, we're going to direct you to where it is. We're going to answer your questions, but save yourself that stress of like, oh, I don't know what the answer to this question is. If you'll just take a few minutes, go to our website, go to the critical pages around advising or FAQ area or the program. All of your degree program web pages have links to the catalog and to the curriculum. They have links to the courses, the concentrations. All of that information is right at your fingertips. And I know what it's like to be a new student and be nervous that you're going to make a wrong decision. But I promise you, it will save you a huge amount of anxiety if you'll just take time to read what it is that we send you and give you access to. It will calm your fears and just make those doubts go away. And so we don't want you to come in all stressed out. So the page that you see in front of you is your individual degree programs will be conducting webinars or have contact moments for you, depending upon which one you're looking at, to help guide you through what you should enroll in your first semester. You should absolutely take advantage of these webinars or these contact people so that you can know with great assurance what it is that you should be enrolling in. Now, just a couple of tidbits. We have lots of great faculty. And I know that you probably know people that go to school here or that went to school here, and they'll say, well, you've got to take this course with so-and-so. Well, that may not be possible, but we have all of our faculty are terrific. So don't be fearful about taking a professor that maybe you don't have any insight or knowledge about, because our faculty are continually stated on our exit survey as being the most remarkable experience at the Jendal School. Our faculty are very student-centered. They want everyone to be successful. They really want you to have a great experience. So don't feel like you have to over-control this. You're going to have a good experience regardless of which section you are in. So please make a note of this slide. Again, we're going to send this deck to you. You want to attend these particular webinars so that you can hear what you should enroll in the spring. And then, of course, our students are always the star of the show, and we know that you guys have oodles of questions. I've looked at the chat questions that keep coming up, and we're going to try to address as many of those questions as we can in this session this morning. But we want you to know that if your question doesn't get answered, you can always send an email to jendal@utdallas.edu, JSOM GR Advising, and the question desk. And that information is on your screen. And we're going to leave that up for a little bit before we go back to Corina and myself to answer some of the specific questions that you have. You know, Corina mentioned something a minute ago that I think is really important. It is not quite time for you to register. It's going to be a little bit before that spring schedule goes live for you to look at. And it's going to be a little bit before you get what is known as an appointment time. And you know, Galaxy unfortunately says, you know, make an appointment with your advisor. You don't have to do that. That advising appointment is your registration time, which is why you want to go to these webinars early so that you know what you're going to enroll in when your appointment time opens up. So please keep that in mind. And then I know students have a lot of questions around holds, because every incoming student will have holds on their record. So I'm going to ask Norma to click back to Corina. And Corina, can you talk for a moment about the various holds and how that will work? Because I know that there are a lot of students that are probably concerned about those holds.
Sure. So one of the holds I mentioned was the must meet with your advisor hold. Now that is going to be removed from your account. So this is still going to be posted right now, but within the next couple of weeks before your registration, we're going to go in there and clear that hold. So you're going to actually see that hold go away. Now, some of you may have the TB test hold, which that's a requirement. That hold is not going to be removed, but it's going to be pushed out. Again, also to allow you to do your registration for your first semester. So that's a hold you may see on there. It's going to be pushed out. Another hold that I don't know if it's on your account just yet is if you're an international student, you are required to attend international orientation. So that may be something that pops up on your screen, but similar to the TB test hold, that's also going to be pushed out to allow you to do registration. There's an official document hold that if you have not submitted your transcripts, your official copies of your transcripts, that's a hold that's going to be on your account as well. I do not believe they add that hold until closer to the start of the spring semester. So I don't think you're going to see that if you log in today. But again, if you do have that, that also has a due date that is pushed out so that it doesn't affect your registration. So essentially, a lot of the holds that you will have as a new student to take care of all these different items are either going to be cleared or they're going to be pushed out to allow you to take care of your registration. Now, important is that even though they are pushed out, it does not mean that you don't have to do those things, right? This is to allow you to look at the schedule, get your classes for your first semester, but then make sure that these items that you have to do are things that you still keep in mind, because as we go into the first semester, if you have not taken care of those things and those holds come back, you may be dropped from your classes. So make sure that you do take care of those holds.
Yeah, TB is particularly important hold because you really should have taken, you have to take the TB test in the United States. You can't bring a test from your home country. You have to do it in the US, and you can't attend class until you are negative on that test. So you want to do that the moment you get here. Get that TB test out of the way, turn in that proof of a negative test, and you'll be all ready to go to the classes that you are enrolled in. So I thought I'd cover a couple of things, Norma, there at the beginning, but I have a feeling we have a lot of questions.
We do have quite a few questions. So the first one is, what is the last date to submit the official transcripts and other official documents that are required, including official scores and things like that?
So Corina, you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So basically you have to submit them by the first day of class. And if we saw on the academic calendar, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 17th of January. Yeah, so Tuesday, January 17th is the first day of class. So that is the official deadline. But again, as I said, do not wait until then to submit it. Do not wait. If you, as you get ready for your first semester, make that one of the things that you do, mail them in so that the university can get them, process them, get them in the system, and that's an item that you do not have to worry about, right? You don't have to come here in January and then, oh, I have to get my stuff done. There's a lot, you may feel overwhelmed because there's a lot of things that you have to get done. So don't wait. That's something you have now. Get it from your institution, which is another thing. It reminds me, sometimes students struggle once they are here to get those in because they're no longer in a location where can they just drive to the institution and get them or send them or request them, right? So don't put yourself in that situation right now. Take care of it, send them in, get it done. You don't have to worry about it. But I guess the official answer to the question is the first day of class is the official deadline for submitting those official documents.
You know, Corina, you brought up a very interesting point that you inadvertently referenced that I just want to remind all of these students who are coming to join us in spring of 2023. It surprises students to find that the university closes at the end of December for an extended holiday. We're closed almost 2 weeks. So sometimes students will arrive and they will be surprised by that, but we're closed for the Christmas holidays. And so there are students that will bring these documents with them because you're getting them at the last moment. You're worried about the mail, and that's fine. If you bring them in their sealed envelope, You cannot bring them in an unsealed envelope. They must be sealed by that institution and preferably signed over the seal or stamped over the seal to show that they are official. And then you can just turn them in when the university reopens in January, which I can't remember the actual open date for January, but I think it's like the 3rd, maybe the 2nd or the 3rd or the 4th, somewhere around there. So if you choose to bring them, you will be able to turn them in. But please keep in mind that we are closed for the holidays. And during those closed weeks, you know, getting responses to emails will be challenging. The International Student Services and Scholars Office tries to really be responsive in that window, and we do to some extent, but please understand that those are our holidays here in the United States, and we are closed for regular business.
Yeah, and Dr. Powell, the winter break, the time that you're talking about is from Friday, December 23rd to Monday, January 2nd. So.
Wow, thank you, Corina, for that specificity, because that throws students off when they get here and they go move into their apartment, and then they come to the campus and it looks like nobody's here. We're just closed for the winter holiday. Oh, there's one more thing, Norma, that also popped into my head. There are multiple orientations that you will be invited to. They are all critical. You will be invited to an academic orientation for the Jindal School. It's called academic orientation. That is something that you want to attend, you want to be there, and Norma will put into the chat the specific date that occurs on. It occurs on the Thursday before classes start in the afternoon. Following that academic orientation is a degree program overview where your program director will go over critical information. You'll need to attend both of those on the Thursday before classes start. There is also an international student orientation that you are required to attend as well. Now, that may be conducted virtually in virtual modules, but you have to have done that, because without having done that, that will result in a hold on your record as well. So you will want to make sure that happens. And then, of course, turning in that negative TB test is important, and checking in with ISSO upon your arrival is a requirement as well. So Norma, sorry, I kind of took over there.
No, that's perfect. Our next question is, if say they don't receive scholarship as a new incoming student, when can students apply for scholarship as a current student, and how many hours do they need to take to be able to qualify?
So if you go to the scholarship website and you aren't awarded a scholarship for spring, we don't award that many scholarships in spring because we give so many scholarships away in fall. But if you aren't awarded and you want to apply as a continuing student, you need to have taken 12 credit hours in the spring. In order to be considered by the scholarship committee, you need to have completed 12 credit hours. So don't take 9. If you want to compete, you have to have 12 credit hours completed.
What is the minimum number of classes I can take in a semester, and what is the maximum? And what does our average student take?
Oh, wow, what a great question. Okay, so one thing that you're going to find out, and you're going to discover, is that the more credit hours you take in a semester, the less you pay per credit hour. The more credit hours you take, the more pain you're going to be in. So a full-time graduate student, an international student, in their first semester enrolls in 10 credit hours. That's three credit hour classes totaling 9, plus the 1 credit hour of the program prerequisite, which is the MAS 6102 professional development. So generally, international students are here for basically 21 months. They are involved in 4 long semesters. So if you start in the spring, you're taking classes in the spring, and that would be the 10 hours. You aren't required to take classes in the summer, but sometimes students might take 1. You take 9 credit hours in the fall, 9 credit hours the following spring, and then you graduate that second fall, because you want to take advantage of internship after you've completed 2 long semesters. When you hear the university say long semesters, that refers to a fall and spring semester. The summer semester, when you're not required to take classes, unless it's your first semester. If it's your very first semester, you are required to take classes. But but that is not considered a long semester. That's actually a compressed semester. It's about 12, 13, 14 weeks long. It isn't as long as a regular semester.
Can we go over when they can enroll again? Can we discuss the enrollment appointment? Because we had some students saying, you know, on October 24th, when I see my enrollment date, then can I start registering? So I was hoping we could cover that topic again.
Corina?
Yes. Okay, so October 24th is an important date because that's when the schedule goes live. That's when you can see what classes are going to be offered in the spring. And that's when you get your assigned enrollment appointment. Again, it's not an official appointment. You don't have to meet with somebody at that day and time. It's just the day and time you can actually start enrolling in classes. You can actually put them on your schedule officially. Now, that enrollment date time is not going to be the 24th. When you look on that day, you're going to get a date in November. It's probably going to be mid-November, the date that comes up for you. So you're going to have to look at that date, and that date that comes up is when you, and each one is going to have a slightly different day and time, you are going to be able to register in your classes. So my recommendation, though, is that you don't wait until that day and time in November to actually start researching your classes and deciding and putting a schedule together of actually what classes you're going to enroll in. That is something you can start next Monday. So I guess to simplify it is October 24th, schedule goes live. You will see when you can actually start registering, and that's when you can start planning for your registration, right? And so you do all this planning until your enrollment day and time, and on that day and time, you can go in and register. You don't have to do it exactly at that day and time. It's just the start. So if you miss exactly that day and time, anytime after that, you can still register. And I guess to add additional clarification is once you enroll in your classes, you have until the start of the semester, basically the weekend before your semester, to actually still modify your schedule. So once you register in your classes, it does not mean that you're now committing to that schedule. It just means you are enrolled, right, in those classes. And then if something happens and you need to tweak things, you still have time to make those adjustments all the way to the start of the semester. As always, we recommend that you're as proactive as possible. So we will always say, you know, plan it, enroll in your classes, hopefully finalize it as soon as possible, because, you know, things happen later. So you want to make sure that you just prepare for it now instead of leaving it to manage later, because there may be other things that come into play later. It's not worth waiting for that. So plan beginning on the 24th, but you cannot register until your official enrollment day and time.
Norma, let me add just a couple of comments on the end of what Corina said. I think that it's important for all of our incoming international students to know that those dates that we showed at the end of the presentation, I'll ask Norma to put those webinar dates up. You don't need to meet with an advisor. You don't even need to meet with a professor. You don't even need to meet with your program director necessarily. You have all of the information that you need to register for your first classes by attending your degree program's webinar. They will go over exactly what is in the core, exactly what are the concentrations, exactly what are the courses that you should take first in the sections. They will cover all of that. So if you think that you need to meet one-on-one with somebody, you don't need to do that. Now, in our smaller programs that you'll see on there that have the red contact the program, you can reach out to that program and that will be a one-on-one conversation, or they'll invite you to a small group webinar to discuss what you need. All of those other webinars that are on there for Business Analytics Flex and Cohort and Finance Flex and Healthcare Leadership, all of those webinars are going to go over exactly what you need to enroll in, and those are occurring before the appointment date that you would get. So don't feel like you have to rush to figure out who you can contact for a one-on-one meeting. That won't be necessary, because since we have a big school and lots of students, we make it easy and create a time where you can get all of that information that you need without having to worry about finding a professor or finding an advisor. Now, once you are here as a student and you've arrived here, and by the way, your visas only allow you to arrive 30 days before the semester starts. You need to arrive before classes start. So don't think that you can arrive 10 days after classes start, because that won't work. You must be here when classes start, because you never know. You might be enrolled in a class where a faculty member, will give an important assignment on day one and you'll miss it. So you want to be here when classes start and attending your classes. Now, once you are a student, you will have a lot of resources to help you manage your degree plan. Your primary resource is your program. They will hold periodic town hall meetings, virtual chats. They will give you access to alumni. They will talk about career options if you do this concentration versus that track versus these set of electives. They will be your primary contact for helping you understand how do you enroll in the classes that prepare you for the career destination and job that you want. Now, you also have the advising office. That's the group that Corina manages. And those people are there to help you with registration, making sure that you're meeting all of your class requirements in terms of the courses that you're taking. They're the ones that help make sure that you're eligible to graduate. They're the people that are helping you with the mechanical sides of the registration process. But we also have another asset for you, and that is our Career Management Center. They give you all kinds of great opportunities to answer all kinds of career questions that you have as well. So you will have resources out the wazoo to help you once you get here. But your primary task right now is to attend one of these webinars so that you will get the information that you need prior to your appointment time so that you know exactly what to enroll in when your appointment time opens up. I said a lot there, Norma.
That was great. Our next question is, what is the difference between the early payment deadline and the regular payment deadline? Is there some kind of price variation for early payment?
Corina, do you want to explain that? You may be able to do that a little bit better than me.
Sure. Yeah, so to start, there's no price variation. If you do early versus regular, it does not affect your tuition. Your tuition is going to be the same, and it's going to be based on the number of credit hours. And then that tuition is also going to be posted to your account. So on that screen with all the tiles, the bursar and tuition is part of that. So there may not be information in there just yet because we're just gearing up to get the spring registration started. But that's another place where you want to make sure that you're familiar with. The academic calendar does have two dates, the early registration payment deadline and the regular. Basically, we encourage you to pay as early as you can. That's the early payment deadline. Anybody who's enrolled by that date is encouraged to pay by that date, but you do technically have a little bit more time. As a new student, I would say that you should pay also attention to the information on your payment deadline that's in your individual student center, because that may be a little bit different. So for example, if you have a scholarship versus not having a scholarship, there may be a variation there. Any questions about when do me have to pay for tuition can be referred to the bursar's office. So those deadlines are to encourage you to make that payment. You definitely want to meet the regular registration, regular payment, unless you have a different date in your individual student center.
Our next question has to do, I think I'll go ahead and put Dr. Powell back on screen. How many days before the start date of the semester do we have to be present in the US?
There's no specific date. The earliest you can arrive is 30 days before start of classes, which would be December the 17th, if I remember the start of class date correctly. But you need to be here. January 17th. But you need to be here to attend your first classes. That's when you need to plan to be in the United States. You do not want to join your classes late. There are so many important things that happen in the first day of class. Where the professor goes over the syllabus, they go over the grading rubric, they go over expectations, they go over, their style of how they approach things, they go over the assignments. You do not want to miss that, because you miss that, it is hard to get back into gear. So do not plan to arrive late, because you will put yourself at a disadvantage if you do that. I also just want to make a brief comment. I've seen in the chat a couple of questions around scholarship. If you are awarded a scholarship, it only applies to 2 consecutive semesters. So if you were to be awarded a scholarship in the spring, that in-state tuition waiver only applies for spring and summer. It does not apply for spring and fall. You only get 2 consecutive semesters. So I just wanted to throw that out as well.
So we've had some students ask how classes will be presented this semester. Is it possible to attend virtually?
Oh, wow. So you should attend the class in the modality in which it is posted. So we have basically 3 types of classes here at the Jindal School. We have face-to-face classes, and that means you are in the classroom with the faculty member live, and you are expected to be in the classroom. We also have OW classes. These are asynchronous classes where you're limited in the number of those that you can enroll in as an international student. Those are purely virtual. They are not self-study. They still follow the same semester calendar. So you can't just wait and do the class 2 weeks before it's over. There are assignments every week in the 16 weeks. And then we have something, and we aren't offering as many of those in the spring, but we will be offering more as we move forward. It's kind of a takeaway from the pandemic years, is what we call synchronous classes, which those classes happen live at a date and time, and you're expected to be live at that date and time in that virtual classroom with your camera on. And those are called synchronous classes. We don't have very many of those. So you cannot plan to be enrolled in face-to-face classes and then have your professor allow you to attend it live streamed. And you are also expected to be in Dallas. One of the biggest mistakes, and thankfully not very many international students make this mistake, but it is heartbreaking when this mistake is made. You have a limited amount of time to report your North Texas address, where you are living. And you are expected by Homeland Security rules to be living at that address. And if you don't do that by the time that ISSO tells you, and they tell you in their orientation how you report your address, if you don't do it, then you can find yourself out of status. And that is not where you want to be. It happens to a handful of students every semester. So if you plan to come to the United States, but you want to live with your aunt in Chicago and hopefully talk your professors into taking the class in a live streaming method, and it's a face-to-face class, not going to happen. You need to be here in Dallas attending class in the modality in which it's being offered.
Is it possible to contact professors prior to the start of the semester, or is there some way to be able to see what the course requirements might look like before registering in those classes?
So the best way that we can tell you how to do that is to go to something called Course Lookup, course book, where you can go and look at previous semesters and you can find the syllabi for those classes. Now, the content will be pretty much the same. If it's a different professor, he might follow a different set of assignments or a slightly different grading rubric. But you can look at syllabi from previous classes by going into Coursebook. And you go to the UT Dallas main webpage, you go to resources, you scroll down and click on Coursebook, and that's where you can go and put in the course prefix, the course number, and you'll be able and hit the search button. Up will come the options, and then when you see it, you'll see off to the right, you're able to click on a syllabus and see what it looked like in that semester. But the other way to do that, Norma, is when you attend these webinars that you see on the screen, they're going to talk about those classes. That's a perfect time for you to ask the program director, tell me about this core class. Tell me about the content in the class. Tell me about, what we can expect in that class. That's a great opportunity to ask those questions.
So I'd like to go back to the topic of scholarship and applying for fall scholarship as a current student. So you mentioned they need to take 12 hours. Let's just say that somebody takes 10 credit hours in the spring and then 3 credit hours in the summer. are they eligible to apply for a fall scholarship?
Well, they can apply, but they won't be considered because you must have taken 12 credit hours in the spring semester, you know, in order to be considered for a continuing student scholarship.
And then another question about summer. How many classes can they take in summer? What's kind of the norm for our international students?
Well, I'm going to have Corina answer that in a second, but my opinion is you don't want to take more than 2. Because you're dealing with a compressed semester. You want to be very thoughtful about the classes you might take in the summer. Corina, do you agree, disagree, or have a different opinion?
I agree. Yeah, usually if a student takes classes in the summer, it's about 2 that they take and that they can manage well, because it is definitely a shorter semester.
Our next question, Dr. Powell, has to do with internships. We've had a few students ask about when they can start doing internships.
So that's a great question. So you need 2 long semesters. So that means if you come in the spring, you would need to be enrolled in spring and next fall. So that means you would be eligible for internship in spring of 2024.
Our next question is, how many classes can they take online per semester as an international student? And I'd say specifically F-1 students, since we're targeting that population today.
So that's a really good and fair question. So I will tell you, and Corina, correct me if I'm wrong, what the rule is right now. And just be mindful that that rule can change, because that's a rule that's really governed by you know, Homeland Security and kind of the whole immigration process. Right now, a student has to be enrolled in 1 face-to-face class, and they can take more than 1 you know, asynchronous class. But that is a rule that they put in place in spring of 20 in the throes of the pandemic. That could change, and it could go back to the old rule, which only allowed you to take 1 online class. So that's the current rule, that's the old rule, and the warning that they could revert back. Corina, I got that right, correct?
Yes, one of the things I wanted to say is, just like we've been showing you different pages or encouraging you, for example, to go to the advising registration page. If you go to UT Dallas and you go to the ISSO, International Students and Scholars Office, which you may have already visited, they also have important information that relates to registration. So if you go through their options, you'll be able to follow one that's for F-1 students, and they'll say enrollment requirements. And so that's going to then outline exactly what you need to do. And I think I think we posted it just now. If you want to go ahead and click on that, just take a look at that information. It outlines everything as it relates to the F-1 status and what you're required to enroll in, even beyond your spring semester. So read that. I'm sure the ISSO office is also sending you a lot of information via emails, and they will host webinars. They're available as well. So also keep track of that part and get your information straight from their website, because they're going to be the ones to give you the specific information as it relates to your F-1 visa.
Norma, all of these students will get an invitation to the individual webinar, correct? Oh, Norma, you're muted.
Oh, my apologies. I believe that the individual programs and program directors will be inviting their own students to their program-specific webinars, but they can also feel free to contact them at the emails provided to get the links or to get the invitation.
Thank you.
Our next, and I also want to mention, I know you mentioned we'll be sharing this presentation, but we will also be sharing the recording. So we'll get that posted on our YouTube page. I'd encourage everybody to go to the Naveen Jindal School of Management YouTube page. I would subscribe, and I would also sign up for notifications, because you'll get a nice little notification on your phone anytime we upload a new video. And you might end up seeing that before we send out the email with the information. So our next question, excuse me, is when is the last day that they can register, and can they register for a class, attend maybe the first couple days, and then drop it?
Oh, that's a great question. Corina, can you remind them about the academic calendar has those dates on there? But yes, you can do that, but you want to follow the rules in doing that. Corina?
Yes, thank you, Norma. So Norma put the academic calendar back on the screen, and you'll see one of the second item on the left-hand side that's highlighted is the last day of regular registration, which is January 12th. Technically, you can still modify your schedule beyond that. So if you look at the next section, it's late registration and the last date to add and swap. And so for a full term course, which is most of the classes that you're going to be enrolled in are full term courses, the last day you can modify that would be January 24th. So you do have some time. As I said, things start middle of November and you have all the way till kind of late January to make these adjustments. But as with everything else, it is best if you are proactive and you get set with your classes first thing and not rely on making a lot of modifications closer to the start of the semester or even within the first week of your semester. Dr. Powell mentioned that, joining the class from the first time that it starts on is important. The faculty are going to be giving you information that is vital. So if you're missing that type of information because you're joining the class late, that may not be a very good start for your semester. So those are the deadlines. But again, I would encourage you to be proactive, get stuff done, get settled in, get your classes in place so that you're ready to start without still having to worry about moving around in your classes.
Yeah, your class experience in the United States is likely to be very, very different than the class experience you had in your home country. Our faculty expect students to be engaged. Our faculty expect students to have really read and understood the syllabus. Our faculty expect you to talk in the class and to interact with them and with each other. Many of our classes require group projects and group assignments or group presentations or group papers because engagement with others is really critical in the business management learning experience. So you may have attended an undergraduate institution where you just basically attended and you didn't say anything. That's not the experience you get here. So it takes a little bit of adjusting to, and you want to be here day one so that you can acclimate as fast as you can.
It looks like we have time for one more question before we wrap up. And this question has to do with teaching assistants. We've had quite a few students who are interested in a teaching assistantship, and they're wondering if they're eligible the first semester or when they might be able to get a position.
So teaching assistantships are not given to brand new students. We hire students who have performed really well in courses because those are the people that are going to be supporting the students that are enrolling in the semester that they're a teaching assistant. So you'll be able to apply at the end of your first semester. You'll basically be put into an e-learning course, which is really a qualifying course to see if you qualify to be a TA. And then if you do, then you'll be asked to apply. And then they will select from those students that they interview for those teaching assistantship positions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It looks like that's all the time that we have for questions. I do remind everybody we'll be sending out the PowerPoint and the recording, and then I'll go ahead and put on the email address, and you can give us some closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Norma. You orchestrate all of these webinars so fabulously. And Corina, you and your entire advising team just work wonders in getting all of our students enrolled and in the right classes and just taking care of their course registration needs. And we are so grateful. The Jindal School is uniquely positioned to care about each and every student that comes into this program. You'll find that out quickly when you get to know your program directors, and program directors typically have program managers and academic support coordinators that help assist them, but you've got a whole entourage of people that are here to make your time at the Jindal School really, really successful. And we want to ease your anxiety. And the best way that we can do that is to just encourage you to use this time before you're in classes to really understand your degree program, really understand the rules and the policies of not only the university, but also the school. And understand that we're going to make it as easy as possible if you do your half. which is to really listen to what we say, really pay attention, really read those emails, and really be mindful of deadlines, because deadlines aren't negotiable in the US. We stick by the deadlines that we publish. We have to treat every student equally and fairly. So, you know, your particular emergency, while it may be an emergency for you, it is not cause to give us a reason to give you a unique extension. We really can't wait to see you guys get enrolled in classes and to get excited about you being here. I will see all of you at the Jendal School Academic Orientation. Norma, what's that date?
January 12th, Thursday, January 12th. And they'll be receiving invites for that in early November.
So keep in mind, there are 4 or 5 things you need to do between now and January the 12th. Number 1, get yourself enrolled in classes. Number 2, make sure you have all of your transcripts either already sent to us or packed away in your suitcase and you're bringing them and you're going to distribute them. Number 3, make sure you have engaged with your program director and either emailed them or attended their webinar so you know what to register for. Make sure that you've signed up for all of the appropriate orientations, including the Jendal Schools orientations, your international student orientation, and connecting with the ISSO so that you give them that all important address that you're going to be living in here at UT Dallas. We want you to get here safely, get the course stuff out of the way so you can worry about where you're going to live and how you're going to connect with people that might be from your home country here in the US. And you can get started on feeling like, wow, this is my brand new home where you're going to be for a couple of years with us. Once you join the Jendal School, you are ours forever. And we cannot wait to have you here. If you have any questions at all after getting this deck and getting the link to watch the webinar, please don't hesitate to send an email to JSOM Advising. They can answer a lot of your questions, jendal@utdallas.edu, or pop a question to the question desk. We're here to relieve you of any of your doubts and to take really good care of you. If you've got any parents who are watching this presentation with you, thanks for trusting us with your grown children. They will have a great experience here, and we hope you all have a wonderful rest of the year. We can't wait to have you here on our campus. Take care. And Norma, thank you. Corina, thank you for being here. We'll see you guys soon.